Italia, the history of Rome, part 7, the Renaissance to the modern era. And yes, I met Pope Francis while in Rome, and a lot of this history has to do with the man who was the Pope over this time. So we start at the Vatican, around the year 1400.
Belarmino, el Belarmino, Santo Padre.
Venga a casa a cenar un día.
Francisco.
Creí que el Belarmino le iba a llamar.
I was honored this day, and even if you aren't a religious person or of a different religion other than Catholic, this position of Pope is worldwide, historically altering and changing important person, and it was so cool. I wasn't expecting to meet the Pope, and Pope Francis. Okay, hello from the Vatican City. Let's talk about the history of Rome. During this time, we're about to get into the Renaissance. It had a lot to do with this area right here. So in 1418, something called the Western Schism happened, where from around 1400 to 1418, there were like 3 or 4 different popes elected in different areas. So like the King of France elected one, and then someone else, and there was a pope here, and it really discredited the papacy, and it would cause a lot of problems. But in 1418, they all settled on something and worked together in a way and focused back on Rome and the Vatican here. Peter's Basilica wasn't quite built yet, but we're going to get into all these buildings that are here now in a quick second. So Pope Martin was elected, bringing Rome a century of revitalization. The Vatican Library, which is down there a little ways, was built in the 1400s, which houses some mysterious objects that's closed to the public. They think that there could be evidence of lost parts of the Bible story, lost pieces of ancient civilization in there. Maybe evidence of aliens, mysteries, secret societies, scandals, all kinds of crazy stuff is supposedly in there. Stuff that the Muslims or Chinese or different cultures did that they don't want people knowing about. You have a question?
Is this something like the Da Vinci Code?
It is like the Da Vinci Code, yes.
Okay.
The true nature of Christ, the secrets of Mary Magdalene and all that kind of stuff, like in the Da Vinci Code, yes. They believe that's in... Some people think in the Vatican Library, only the Pope and a few selected people could actually go in there. But okay, so it was built right over there in the 1400s by Pope Martin. I'm sure it goes deep into some cavern somewhere. These art-filled halls that are like tourist places now, part of a museum. But back there is the Vatican Library, built in the 1400s, housing the secrets of humanity. Who knows what's in there, man? Different scenes on the wall depicting tons and tons of things. It's just crazy with the art, old maps, globes. Yeah. What a place. And Rome began in the century of revitalization. The Vatican Library was established, churches renovated, population grew again. Going into the 1500s, into the Renaissance. Okay, so we're in the starting the 1500s. This was the time, 1400 to 1600s or so, was when the Renaissance movement moved from Florence to Rome. So the epicenter of the Renaissance was here, of art, culture, architecture, all kinds of amazing stuff. Which a lot of it is highlighted when the soon-to-be established Vatican Museum, which houses amazing artworks and stuff from all over the world, and it was incredible. All right, we'll talk about that in a second, though. So lots of artists came to Rome, like Michelangelo of Ninja Turtle fame, Michelangelo and Rafael of Ninja Turtle fame. No, those aren't really the Ninja Turtles. That's where they got their names from in the show. 80s kid. And even taking part, Michelangelo especially took part in the urban planning and architecture projects, as well as painting and sculptures. Same with Raphael. Including the nearby, behind this building, I believe, over there, Sistine Chapel, which is Michelangelo's pristine masterwork where he had a fiery relationship with the Pope, and he strained himself to sit back and paint on the ceiling. And it's right over there, actually. Okay, so sadly, though, during this time of rebuilding and revitalization, a lot of Rome's classical monuments and marble were ransacked for materials in this massive upgrading project of Rome, leaving buildings like the Colosseum in the state it is today. So they stripped the Colosseum of a bunch of marble, and I hate that kind of stuff. But that's what happened. So it's a little better, larger camera. See the whole scope of the place. Ruins, ruins, ruins. Look at those columns, man. They're still standing strong, looking good. Yeah. Awesome. The Colosseum was actually almost converted to a wool factory. Thank goodness that didn't happen. So next, though, is this craziness. So right there, in 1509, the Pope at the time decided to tear down the 324 AD built by Constantine the Great St. Peter's Basilica, because he wanted a grander, huge church, which is, you can see there now. Peter's Basilica, this is pretty close right here. This is a awesome statue, maybe of St. Peter himself, probably. This church first was built 324 AD by the Emperor Constantine the Great on the tomb of the Apostle St. Peter, who was crucified upside down by the Emperor Nero, 64 AD, not far from here on the Vatican Hill, and just thrown in the ground over here. Then Constantine built this, not this church, but built a grand church. And then in like 1509, they decided to tear that 1,000-year-old church down, which is terrible. But then this one, the largest church, Catholic church in the world, 1509 to I think 1629, finally was done. And it's the primary church of the Catholic faith, right here. Inside St. Peter's Basilica. Now this is a whole different kind of church. No pews. It's interesting.
C'est un cercle qui s'est touché en genouillé Charlemagne le soir de Noël dans les années 800.
Charlemagne, crown, Holy Roman Emperor, right here, year 800.
Ils ont fait des alliances parce que
St. Peter's Basilica, the home of the Catholic Church. It's a shame the original was torn down, but the new one built in the history we're talking about is beautiful and magnificent. A lot of people really thought it was sacrilege to tear that down. I really kind of wish he didn't do that. That would have been incredible to have a 1,700-year-old church, but parts of it and the layout are from that old church. And these are the Pope's gardens, by the way. It's a private area for him and his friends to have meditate and stuff like that. But it is what it is. Through the 1500s, while that was being built, Rome flourished in this time period, but it was a little bit controversial. The popes spent lavishly. They were some of the most powerful men on earth during this time. They reaped in gold and different resources from all around the world. Especially this was the start of European colonialism and had ties with all kinds of kings, like in France and Spain and stuff. They also had this really scandalous system that started at this time to earn even more money, which is a big blemish on Catholicism. You know, they're not perfect. And the Vatican, I've got to watch what I say. Hey, respect, but you know, this was a pretty bad one. They had people all over Europe and the world really do this system where they paid to have their sins cleaned. So you paid a certain amount of money to your church and priest, and then they even thought of paying ahead of time so you could sin. It was really a scam, man. It was really crazy. So, you know, a lot of probably the artwork in here and different projects all around here were funded from that money, plus churches all over the world. It was really scandalous, and even crazier were the different debauchery of the families that installed the popes here. You know, they were holy men, they were Christian, Catholic, they did the whole church thing, all that, but behind the scenes, man, especially this one guy, the bourgeois pope, whose apartments are actually right there, covered in glamorous artwork. Alright, so these were actually the apartments of the scandalous, kind of sketchy bourgeois pope. But he loved his art, so he got Rafael to paint his apartments. That pope, he was actually a member of the Medici family, which was banking. He basically bankrupted his family with taking wealth. Some of these rooms with this amazing artwork probably is where they had some of those really scandalous parties, I'm thinking. Yeah, give it to the guy, he held on to his power strong, and he loved his artwork. Early 1500s, you can see here. So this room is extra. Super famous scene that changed the world forever. In 300 AD, Roman Emperor came over from Istanbul, which it was at the time Byzantium, which turned into Constantinople. Came over here, there was a lot of strife in the empire between West and East, a bunch of usurpers, civil war, stuff like that. So he was having a battle in Rome. Rival legion, he saw a cross up in the sky. So his mother was a Christian, but he wasn't totally sold, but he was like, okay, you know. So when he saw that, it supposedly said this will propel you to victory, your faith in this. He had all his soldiers here, depicted beautifully in this battle, put a cross on their shields. The angels of heaven are dictating the event to go Constantine's way. There he is there. There's the shields with the crosses on top of the Roman legion. The Roman legion things that they used to have. I forget the name. And here's the Tiber River. There's the Nineveh Bridge right there. So this battle went down, giving Constantine the Great ultimate supremacy. And right after this battle, he sent his mother down to Jerusalem to find a bunch of Christian relics. He opened up 7 churches in Rome, and for the first time ever, Christianity was legalized somewhat. This scene depicts that one. Start with that one, the battle. Painted in early 1500s in the bourgeois Pope's apartment. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but supposedly a bunch of scandalous stuff went down in here also. Beautiful artwork. So now part of the museum. So this guy, you know, he had all this power and he really wanted to wield it. He had several lovers and children with several different mistresses. You know, you're supposed to be celebrated as a priest. It wasn't really happening in the 1500s. He had these crazy parties in the Vatican, apartments down here. These parties, like prostitutes and all kinds of stuff. There was one story that I heard of where naked women were crawling on the ground and picking up chestnuts with their mouth, and the men at the party got to choose. That happened right here. It's true. It was really crazy. So he had all these crazy parties and extravagant displays of wealth and power. Just, you know, like the old Roman emperors. The popes must have felt like something like that, with all this money coming in. And, you know, at the same time, though, Rome and the Vatican and all this was getting revitalized to a state it hadn't been in centuries. So, but one thing that happened actually was a monk from Germany named Martin Luther came and visited Rome, and he witnessed these excesses and the unholy behavior of some of the people around here. And this is actually part of what inspired the Protestant Reformation started by Martin Luther, which caused all kinds of problems into the future. But okay, let's focus on here. This place really had an effect on all of Europe and the world, this place I'm standing in right now. So there were some other blemishes in the 1500s. After hearing all this grandeur here and scandal, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V was a German Holy Roman Emperor. He came into Rome with his army and ransacked thousands of buildings. They killed people in the streets. A lot of the soldiers were Protestants. It was really an intense time for the city of Rome. They wanted to punish the city and the Pope for its lavishness, working with the forces of hell and its extreme wealth. The soldiers stayed in Rome and they demanded money from the papacy. The Pope hid inside Castle St. Angelo, which is down there a little ways. He had to flee the area here. People, you know, priests even were murdered in the streets. It was really crazy. It was actually, of all the times the city of Rome was ravaged, this was one of, if not the worst in history. But they paid off the Holy Roman German troops, and they left, I guess. And after this, though, the papacy completely changed. So they started becoming not just a ruthless counter-Reformation governing body, but also a Catholic Reformation began, where they wanted to clean up the Church's act because of all this extravagant wealth and really scandalous behavior that you wouldn't think the Pope would have. So the new popes during this time, in here actually, in all these places, there's all this art and beauty and different things going on. So this one pope, he's known as the fig leaf pope. He came around, during this time too, with all this extravagance, there was all this artwork done of all these pagan scenes of ancient Rome and different incredible things. They found old Roman pieces of things everywhere. Really beautiful stuff, really. So they found into the Catholic Reformation. Just to give you an idea of the grandeur here of the Renaissance. This is my favorite room. The immaculate. Before this was a museum, these were the apostolate apartment. Up and down. Talk about the excesses of just beauty. They just wanted to cover his art. Over here is a map of Italy. At the time this was built in the Renaissance, look out. And this was a map of Italy during the Roman era. And this whole ceiling is filled with crazy art. Where are we? Rome, right there. So this room, now part of the museum, this shows what we're talking about, that Renaissance just. Inside the Vatican, hordes of artwork from archaeological finds in Rome And really all over the world started to be collected around this time. Beautiful stuff, really. Now could be seen in the Vatican Museum. So around the 1500s, late 1500s is when that collection began. This guy went around because he thought all this artwork was a little bit indecent, that were naked, and he covered up all the private parts with fig leaves. They're still here to this day. So we're getting into the modern era now. We're in the 1600s. Some other stuff happened though in this cleaning up of the papacy and the purging of corrupt and unethical clergy and different people in the Pope's court. Some other pretty nasty stuff went down in Rome. Unfortunately, people were beat in the street for being heretics, and some other stuff went down. We'll get into it in a second. Hello, all right, so back to the papacy and cleaning up its act, which we're right here by San Angelo Castle, which doubled as a prison and torture place for people that were deemed heretics and all kinds of stuff. Here's the Tiber River. Back there is St. Peter's Church, Basilica of the Vatican. All right, so some pretty bad stuff was going on in Rome. Like people were being burned alive in the streets as like witches, especially gays, homosexuals during this time. Jewish people too were also blamed for a lot of things, and they were put into a ghetto in the 1500s, the Roman Jewish ghetto, which is pretty crazy too. And 1539, a group of people called the Jesuits started here in Rome. So we're close to their original church. Obviously, they were taking orders from this church, the Pope. This church actually was in the process of being built. It was almost there. It was almost done at this time. So 1539, the Jesuits, who were strict, but, you know, peaceful, I think, initially at least, but they didn't want the partying hooliganism kind of going on. You know, they were to the basis of the church we all think of. They sparked a mission to spread Roman Catholicism worldwide, very aggressively. So right around this time, 1539, you know, Spain was in the New World, Mexico, Latin America was becoming a thing, Caribbean, all kinds of people, missionaries from Portugal and stuff were going all the way to Malaysia and China and stuff. So Catholics were trying to spread the word worldwide, like places like Philippines and Mexico, all over the place in this time. So this was bankrolled by the Vatican here, this mission. But in this era, Rome as a whole became more holy, the holy city. Less corrupt, and new revitalization projects once again commenced. With a new aqueduct, tons of churches were built. You can see some in the skyline over here by the river Tiber. Beautiful bridge. Bridges were fixed and projects. And by 1600, Rome was once again a cosmopolitan city. So we're going into the modern era now. So into the 1600s, the 1700s, Rome saw aristocratic, powerful families though engaged in many public work projects and fixing roads and building these statues all over the place and fixing churches. And 1600s is when that massive church was finally finished, 120 something years after its inception, 1509 by the Pope. Yes, question?
But yes, but if you take the bus, maybe the roads are still need a little work.
The roads are still rough. Yes, we're gonna get into that in a little later in the story. The roads were even rougher. All right, for the arts, and they're vying for the ultimate prize, often brought with bribery and corruption, unfortunately, by the Pope. So the different families of Rome, powerful families, nobility, trying to set someone up in that place over there, who really was all throughout this time the king of Rome in a lot of ways. The Pope was sort of a royal head figure. That's how I was looked at, really. Anyways, that's not how it is now. But anyways, the Papal States was a thing, which is several areas all over modern Italy. So the Pope ran a bunch of different regions of Italy. It was like a country called the Papal States. The new St. Peter's Church was completed in 1610. The interior was done in 1626. The Papal States was a country, and the papacy was doing good. But although it began to lose influence, the Protestant Reformation was going on, and all kinds of other things. But Rome kept on pushing on, and Catholics from around the world, from Latin America to the Philippines to Ireland and beyond, were still loyal to the Pope here. And all the bishops all over the world and different places, Catholicism kept growing into the 1600s, even though Protestantism was becoming big. So overall though, despite good urban planning and revitalization, Rome was still a backwards town into the 1700s. They had bad roads and poor lighting. See, I told you we're going to talk about the roads. We were riding the bus the other day. They're still kind of crazy. It's still a little rough around the edges here, like the 1700s. The bureaucracy ran the town, and few outside of Rome trusted these people that were running the government here. They weren't to be trusted. They had a reputation that they were mostly concerned just what was happening in Rome, and nothing else was better than them. Sounds kind of like a New Yorker. Not all New Yorkers, but all right, let's go into the modern era next. And it's dusk on this day. Let's move on for another new day. All right, Trevi Fountain. This is a place that's usually crazy crowded. It's not right now. It's kind of nice. Bellissimo. This is that famous fountain. But there's usually like 1 billion people around. It's way better. Trevi Fountain. Hundreds. Trevi Fountain, super popular spot. Nice sculpture. Isn't that ancient? When the Pope is involved in something, he always gets his name up there. Benedict XIV, Pontifex Maximus. Ready? All right, quick stop. Too much to do in Rome. Not that long ago history. It's beautiful, but I like the ancient. Anyway, Trevi Fountain. Shadows are kind of weird. The god of the ocean, fresh water, Neptune Fountain. It's not an old fountain, but this place is significant because it was once the site of a stadium, Domitian's Arena. It's underground now. And the aqueduct ran through here. And the Pope restored it, building those fountains, and they put an Egyptian obelisk up, I think. That might have been there before. Ooh, a bird of peace on top. And so the people of Rome could get fresh water again. They're still using these ancient aqueducts that the Romans built, and there's still great water available for fountains and drinking and different things all around the city to this day. This is where the aqueduct was. One of them. Wow, look at this thing. Crazy. Spanish Steps. Famous spot. And one of many fountains. Another obelisk up there. Don't know if it's Egyptian in origin. It kind of looks like it. But we're not going to walk up there. cool area. Down here is where all the designer stuff is. Fendi, Prada. Ooh, there's another obelisk down there. Way down there, you can barely see it. What kind of companies were down there? Well, Ferrari, Louis Vuitton,
Fendi, Prada, Saint Laurent,
Hermes is called. Oh man, designer fashion of Rome. I like this church steps. Looks pretty cool. Ciao, ciao. What now? Oh, he wants to go swimming, the boy? Here we are at the Spanish Steps. We're leading up to a beautiful church. We got the fountains everywhere. Up there's another Egyptian obelisk, ancient history, it looks like. Over here we have the towering with Mother Mary on top, and down there's another obelisk. You know, there's all this interesting symbolism and layers of history in this place. Down here is the designer designer street, designer brand. Okay, look out! Alfa Romeo driving by. Designer cars, Porsche, Lamborghini, Fendi, Prada. Modern Italy is known for its designer clothes. It's actually boosted the economy a lot. So let's get into what history we're talking about here. Hello, helicopter. All right, 1798, Napoleon's French armies marched in here and took the city in a short-lived Roman Republic backed by the Empire of France. In 1809, though, the city of Rome was annexed into the French Empire, where it was basically associated with the French for decades after that, actually, and up until the 1870s. A lot of people don't realize. But yeah, so this is the Napoleonic Wars time, and there wasn't any fighting in the city, but Napoleon's armies came in here, and there was a French garrison here for centuries. I'm sorry, decades. We're such a long history. I'm thinking centuries, not decades. All right. So there were some questionable popes in the Vatican at this time. You know, a little bit controversial stuff was going on, but the Pope was doing his thing in the Vatican, and they did promote a lot of education and improvements in the city during this time. Mostly to revive the papal power in the 1800s, because many people's worldviews thought of the papacy and Rome in general as still having a medieval state of mind in the 1800s, despite the changing modernization of the world around it. So in 1848-49, revolutions swept through Europe, like with the Austrian-Hungary Empire, and Rome was not lost with that. Republican, not USA, my USA viewers, not the Republican Party, people who like a republic. So a lot of Italians were aspiring to have a republic, and they were looking to take the city of Rome. But the Pope aligned with the French garrison and the King of France, who was Napoleon III, I believe. So not really king, president of France, the French Empire. So the Pope aligned with him, and Rome did not get taken by the Italians initially. In 1861, the Kingdom of Italy was established. That took all of the peninsula and Sicily and all the way down to where the Kingdom of the two Naples, or Kingdom of the two Sicilies and Kingdom of Naples was, and all the way up to Venice and Lombardy and Milan and everything. But they could not take Rome. Rome was still garrisoned by French troops when this country of Italy was established, 1861. And it would remain like that, a papal, French-aligned state, city-state, kind of, for a little while longer. But beautiful French state. Let's get into the next part of the history. Garibaldi, I always say that name wrong, tried to invade Rome twice, in 1862 and 1867, but they were unsuccessful. The French garrison, though, protected the city. In 1870, finally withdrew, and Italian troops stormed in. There was a battle, small skirmish. About 50 people died between papal and Italian troops, and Italy captured the capital. The first king, King Emmanuel, built a massive victory building to himself over by the Roman Forum, which is really crazy looking. Here it is, the monument for the new unified Italy. Grandiose thing back there, massive. It looks old, it looks like a Roman thing or ancient kind of looking thing, but it was made late 1800s when the country of Italy was formed. Right, so the Pope lost part of his power and holed up in Vatican City. He excommunicated the first king of Italy and tried to get Catholics to not associate themselves with the secular new government. Still, the city of Rome became the capital of the new country of Italy. Not that long ago, really, 1870 this took place. Palaces were built and the city was modernized. Several decades of kings lived in the palace of Rome until 1943. And they were at odds with the Pope this whole time. But this made a lot of Italian Catholics uneasy, which most Italians are. But the city marched on through the late 1800s, late 1800s and Rome, Spanish. All right, let's get into the 20th century at the grand building, Blue Court building. A very proud man up on his awesome looking statue with lions and heroes around it. I feel like this place is appropriate for this. Okay, so World War I. Italy was involved, but no battles happened in Rome or anything, so it was left unscathed, no damage from World War I. Afterward, though, there was a growing socialist movement in interwar Rome. So in 1922, a man named Benito Mussolini started getting involved in the history of Rome. I feel like that balcony up there is somewhere where he would come out and do rousing speeches to crowds for some reason. He may or may not have. Not sure, but so 1922, he organized a march on Rome with some armed people. Some weren't. It was kind of just like a massive protest gathering, and a lot of them had fascist sympathies. It looked like a civil war was brewing in the early 1920s of Italy, kind of like hey buddy. Kind of like a lot of other places dealing with all kinds of interwar problems. Yes.
So you will not find statues of Mussolini around Rome or Italy?
No, we're going to talk about why you're not in just a second.
Thank you.
They tore them all down, but let's talk about his rise. So it looked like a civil war was brewing with Mussolini and his back, thousands of backers, tens of thousands probably. But the king of Italy here in Rome made a deal and made Mussolini the prime minister, which he was for 10 years. Sorry about my eyes. Something's bothering me today, everybody. I look kind of crazy. You know I'm kind of crazy. Anyways. All right. In 1929, Mussolini granted the Pope and the Vatican independence and its own sovereign nation, as it remains to this day. So that was a big issue for centuries, and he hashed out that deal. He actually built a lot of grand buildings and cleared up a lot of modernization projects and did some interesting things to Rome, actually, trying to modernize it. So then there was some bickering and violence between different factions of socialists and fascists. And because of all this, Mussolini just said, you know what, I'm declaring myself dictator. supreme dictator of Italy in 1933 with his court in Rome, and there was a puppet king kind of where he told what to do. He had grand dreams of expanding Italy and remaking the Roman Empire in a way. He went into Ethiopia and Somalia, North Africa, and different places. And he had these grand dreams of expansion. So fascism has taken over Rome and Italy. Exactly what that entails, that's beyond my scope. I'm not a political science major. But, you know, it's obviously has its downfalls, that kind of governance. And, you know, dictatorship also does. So we're talking late 1930s now. He gave speeches to huge crowds from balconies like that. It seems like he would give one up there, like I said before. Like I said before too, he built several upgrading works projects, new roads, widening boulevards, built a bunch of monuments and new buildings. Maybe some of these around here. Who knows? So, you know, with every story, I always like to say there's a good and a bad. Even with the really bad, there's always some good that comes out of everything in life. All right, back to the story though. This is when it starts getting really crazy. So 1938, Adolf Hitler and 500 of his Nazi officials, including Goebbels and a bunch of other crazy people, visited Rome in a grand entrance. Mussolini welcomed him with rousing crowds, and it must have been quite a scene in the city. They met with him and the king, and you know, discussing future plans, world domination. Who knows what they were talking about? So, in a speech in Rome 2 years later, 1940, maybe from this very balcony, I'm not sure, probably not though. Mussolini gave a speech joining the Axis powers in World War II. So the Axis powers were Nazi Germany, which annexed Austria and whoever else it took over, Italy and Japan. They all kind of were against everybody else. The middle classes of Rome supported Mussolini's government, but the working class and the elites did not. Do you have a question?
So then why in The Man in the High Castle did Germany break from Japan?
Well, Italy didn't make it long into the war like Japan and Germany did. We're about to talk about that. Man in the High Castle, by the way, is a very interesting show and book. I like the show better, where it's an alternate history where the Axis powers won World War II, and it takes place in the 60s, and it's in America, and Japan has one half, and USA has the other, or Nazis have the other. It's crazy on the East Coast. Okay, back to the story. Good question. All right, so this is why that happened. In 1943, like I said, the people of the elites and the people of Rome, the working class people, really didn't like Mussolini. And as the Allies, British and mostly Americans, were making progress in North Africa and invading Sicily, the people of Rome overthrew the dictatorship somehow. The mass of people took over, and Mussolini in 1943 and his wife were hung in the street off some balcony somewhere, kind of like this. Killed. And his statues, which he put up all over the city of Rome, were all torn down. So you'll never see one. That's the reason. They, just like 2020 now, right? We're tearing down statues. That kind of thing's been happening a long time. There's a man statue. Was he a good man? Was he a bad man? Who knows? Someone might judge at some point. All right. Back to focusing on the story. All right. But Rome wasn't out of the woods yet, because Germany was mad about losing their best European ally, and Nazi Germans came down and took the city. They occupied Rome fighting many locals and turncoat soldiers who turned to the other side. So Italy wanted to break free, join the Allies side and Americans, but Germany wasn't going to give up easy. There was many deadly street battles between Nazis and Romans all around the city. Hundreds died, but they basically, it was occupation. So another bad thing and sad thing. All the Jews of Rome, Jewish population, was rounded up, put into a ghetto, and sent to death camps. Only like a dozen of thousands of people survived. So despite the majority of people's support of the Allies, and the Pope actually declared Rome a neutral city. Because of the occupation by Nazi Germany and the previous alliance, the city was targeted indiscriminately by Allied bombings in 1943, killing some and damaging portions of the city. But the damage actually was minimal. Both Germany, when they were coming in to occupy the revolution taking place, and the US bombers, when they were fighting their way to get in the city, they held back out of respect for, I believe, the history and mostly the religion. The US didn't want to bomb Rome because the Pope was here in the Vatican City, and there's several Catholics, all in the military, you know, Italian Americans, Irish Americans, people from New York, Boston. Yes?
Why didn't Hitler ever try to take over America?
They sent submarines out there, but it was too far.
Okay.
Geography, I think. They couldn't even take over England. That was the biggest goal. They tried, almost did it, but couldn't do it. Okay. So I'm happy that they didn't damage a lot of historical sites, and that crazy bombing of World War II was really destructive and sad. But there was a little bit here, not as much as other places. So the Germans, Nazis, just kind of withdrew Rome. They took off. They couldn't keep it any longer. The Allies were coming in strong. So the Allies entered the city without any resistance in 1944. Vatican City, interestingly, throughout the whole war, stayed neutral, which a lot of people look at as controversial. They think maybe they looked the other way when some atrocities were committed. I'm not sure. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to judge on that. But they wanted to be neutral, just like Switzerland was also neutral. It's crazy. Ireland also. Okay, back to Italy. So Italy was declared a republic in 1946 with the capital of Rome. Yeah. So post-war was initially tough for Rome, but a bounce back occurred within the next few decades. It became known for its film industry, with movies like Ben-Hur and Cleopatra filmed here, super famous movies. Tourism, especially for classical Roman history, which I like so much, which we talked about a lot, and Catholic pilgrims once again flooded into the city to visit the Vatican and all the church history and everything. The city grew, airport was extended, and with such a long history of a city, 28 centuries, I don't need to get in, and I don't want to get into the specifics of the last several decades. It's just not that interesting to me. I like ancient history better. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I know people around right now experience that, so there's a lot of documentation nowadays, but okay, let's fast forward to right now, 2020. It's a large metropolitan city, capital city. Not perfect, just like any city. A little rough around the edges in some areas, but very beautiful and tons of incredible history. Millions of people visit every year. Even this year is a little toned down because of the virus, but you know, still people are visiting. And it is the most incredible history of any city in the world, in my opinion. And probably the most fascinating and influential city also of any in the world. The Eternal City, 28 centuries of history. Question.
We learned that the green parakeets are here because they are released from cages, but why do they have palm trees here like this?
Yeah, you know, who knows why when those got put in. Maybe
Because
Mussolini put those in to beautify the city.
It's all over
Later
Rome. Many places have this palm tree.
Yeah, you know, it's a warm climate here. Yeah,
No
I don't really
answer.
talk about the climate in. That's an interesting part of the city, right? I don't know.
It's very strange.
I don't know. Okay, last but not least, thanks to Mike Duncan of the History of Rome podcast. You are awesome. BBC's documentary by Divine Gamble on Rome that I watched on YouTube. It was a great 3-part series. The Encyclopedia Britannica for helping me out. Plus everything ingrained in my head from the memory of life of studying Roman history, like Gibbons, The History of Rome, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History episodes, The History of Byzantium with Robin Pearson podcast, different shows and books I got read to as a kid from my dad. Yes, all right, the Eternal City, that's it. There's the end. In the bus station, left Rome on a historical journey.
We have to go.
And we're trying something strong here. Aqua Vit.
No, it's okay.
No, what time is it? Okay.
It leaves at 6.
No, it's okay.
Okay, no, no.
It's not your fault.
Grappa.
Oh, yeah.
Like grappa. Yeah. Woohoo, strong one. No.
All right, let's play.
Drinking with Ray by Rome. What a dime. What a life. What a history. Drink the whole thing?
We gotta go.